Hey, what's guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the first of its kind construction jacks, and this one is brought to you by DeWalt, okay? So if you thought, looking at the thumbnail, these looked like clamps, they kind of are clamps, but in reverse, okay? So what is a construction jack, right? As you would imagine, it's a jack which lifts things up or spreads things open, right? For construction, right? So if you take a look at this, it works almost like a quick clamp would, but as you press it, it spreads things open, okay? So this concept is not new. You know, you have spreaders, you even have quick clamps that you can work in reverse that spread stuff, but to kind of combine them in one tool where you can literally lift from the ground, right, with almost no clearance is kind of new, and I would say DeWalt is the first to bring this thing to market. And if you're thinking, wow, Irwin has one of those, right? Yeah, you would be surprised, you know, your mind may be blown when you find out that the Stanley Black & Decker company, which owns DeWalt, also owns Irwin, okay? So there are very small differences between these and the Irwins, and we're gonna go touch on that real quick. So if you're interested in learning more about these, stick with us. So this right here is a DeWalt Tough Series construction jack designed to do the heavy lifting for you. You can lift, level, and lighten the load with the DeWalt Tough Series construction jacks, which are equipped to handle for the step to lift operation or squeeze to lift operation. It features a slim base that helps quickly gain access to under appliances and ergonomically designed trigger with metal ribs. This Tough Series tool is designed to offer a lifting capacity of up to 340 pounds. That is per each jack, not per pair. Okay, the hands-free lifting promote of easy use. With this design, you can actually use step to lifting, and it has a maximum lift height of about 8 3/4 inches. I would argue maybe just a hair less, and you can also do lowering with control and fine-tuning adjustments. It has, as most DeWalt tools have, ergonomically grip design, and it also has flush mount countersunk holes which you can use to secure very securely while in use, okay? It also has a no-load quick release button, and it is part of the DeWalt Tough Series lineup, which is designed to endure the most harsh extreme job site condition. All right, you guys, so this right here is the jack, and I will go ahead and say these are sold as individual tools. I do have a pair here, but that's because I personally purchased both of these tools, 2 items, okay? They are not sold as pairs. I mean, in the future, there may be some special or something like that, but they are sold individually, okay? And before we go any further, I do have to say DeWalt did not send us these. Nobody sent us these. We bought these with our own monies. So, you know, take what we're gonna say as our own opinion, okay? So with that being said, as you can see right here, this is pretty much level jack, right? What you're thinking exactly it is and what it can do is exactly what you're gonna get. There's no frills, no thrills, okay? But first, let me tell you the biggest difference between this construction jack and a normal quick clamp style, right? So this is a quick clamp, right? And in my case, this I've moved from over here where it would clamp together to being here. So now it actually turns into a spreader, right? So in case you didn't know, some of these quick grips can do this. Now you do, right? Not all quick grips can do this, but the ones that have this type of style design where this pin can be removed and placed on the other side, you can change from a clamping force to a spreading force using pretty much the same, you know, technology or the principles, okay? So the biggest difference between this and the construction jacks are obviously this is like the minimum, right, that it can be. And then from that point, it can spread, as you can see here, right? But if I was going to try to put this underneath like a small appliance or a small toolbox or something that I'm just going to lift, I can't get that because I would have to, you know, already be able to lift it, you know, like 8 to 10 inches before I could even do that, right? So that's probably the biggest difference, right? So if you're going to use it for things like spreading big, you know, like they say you're squeezing deck boards together or something like that, this will probably do fine, right? But this has a separate place by itself, right? So let's get into it, all right? as you can imagine here, it has this squeeze to lift trigger, as we talked about in the marketing, right? This squeeze handle has metal reinforced ribs on both sides, okay? So if you look at it, it actually has ribs on both sides, and the middle part is plastic, okay? The Irwin style one, as we talked about earlier, is pretty much almost exactly the same, but there's the trigger part that moves is actually on the bottom, right? So the only way that would work is it would be pretty much this style, and you're using it this way, right, to spread it. So the reason I bought the DeWalt one and not the Irwin one is because what you can do is use your foot to press down on it to, you know, operate it, but the Irwin one you have to pull up on the trigger. There may be pros and cons to each one, but in my case I wanted to be able to use my foot to press down, which is why I got this. You may have seen a clip earlier in the video we're lifting like a 300-pound battery. You know, I don't recommend doing it that way by using two of these and just lifting it up, right? So being able to use your foot like this I think is a huge option. So if you're thinking, you know, if you're trying to figure out if you can buy the Irwin one or the DeWalt one, I would get the DeWalt one just primarily for that reason, okay? So let's get into it, okay? As you can see here, it has a pretty wide base. The base part you can see has a little taper on it here. So if you need to slide under, you know, something, it can help you get under there because it has that little taper. And it's pretty, you know, pretty much spread well. As you can see here, the base of it is pretty strong. What you will see happen is that this, as you squeeze it, will actually move this entire mechanism, right, up, and this metal piece which is connected to this mechanism, right, all full tang pretty much, right, it'll be able to lift or pretty much spread that open end apart, okay? That works actually really well. Haven't had any issues with it, can't complain about it. I would say this tool is pretty much priceless, especially when you need it, okay? The other thing to note about you know, this base is that if you look very closely, it has these countersunk holes which you can use in case you are worried about, you know, you're lifting something and you're maybe worried about it like sliding out, right? That's obviously a huge danger that does happen, especially when you're moving stuff or lifting stuff, especially using leverage like this. The tool can just slide out from under it, right? And then you have a huge problem. So if you have a situation like that, you can obviously, you know, just bolt these down into whatever surface you need to do and then lift it that way. You know, if you're also concerned, oh, okay, well, that could be a problem because what the top part lifts out, right? Well, you could technically, you know, bolt this into the material, right, to do that, which would be almost impossible to do if it's already down, right? So you'd probably have to like bolt it in to the material first, right, and then put it down to be able to operate it. But that is a feature that they do have. I do really appreciate doing that. I've had to do it once, I think. I was lifting something really heavy and I did not want it to slide out because it was metal on metal with no grippage on it, right? So that's a thing. I do want to say one thought that did cross my mind is I do wish in some applications they had like a foam pad or a rubbery pad on this surface right here, just this lifting surface, mainly because the chances of something slipping out seems to be a lot higher. And because I was lifting some metal on metal, you know, that there was just no grippage there or not enough friction to support that. So that is something I did think about, you know, maybe that's something they could do in the future, or if you wanted to rubberize it somehow, I'm sure you could probably do that too, right? So with that being said, there are two ways to lower this jack, which is one, this precision will go up here, right? This button is a lowering precision control, right? So you press it down once and it will lower very smoothly, as you can see right here, okay? But let's just say you have it all the way, you know, up. You can press this black lever here and then slide it all the way down. It's almost like a quick release, almost something like that on like a caulk gun or something like that, right? So you just press it down, do that, right? You can dangerously push on this black lever when there's force applied to it to get it all the way down, which I think is a little bit of a danger, just in case, you know, you have a brain fart and you accidentally press this down and slide it down. I do think they have some type of safety mechanism that helps prevent it or helps resist it from happening, but it does not prevent it. I think I was lifting, I think it was like a 600-pound battery with the combination of this, and then I think for some reason I had a brain fart and actually pressed this. And it felt weird and it wouldn't go down immediately, so I just kind of like pressed it again a couple times and it did fall very fast, very quickly. But, you know, it did feel like I was doing something wrong, right? So I did have a brain fart and do that, and just because, you know, they're right here and right here, you can easily, you know, just misdo it. If you got your hands full and stuff like that, it could be there. But I do wish that there was some way to prevent using this lever when there is force applied here, like a down force, right? That would be a good safety factor to have. So the other thing that I did want to point out is that, as you can see right here, if I press this, it does decrease, right? It goes down very slowly, which is good. It's very precise. But when you have weight applied to this lever, right, it is not smooth at all. It's almost like, right? So that's a little bit of a downside. And I think on there's a certain level or certain amount of weight where it can operate a little bit smoother. But using it on let's say the 300-pound battery you saw earlier in the video, it actually goes steps like this, right? So on light material, right, it works fine, but on heavier material, it'll just take bigger steps, right? So that's the one thing I did want to point out there. Otherwise, on the back side, you don't really have too much. It's pretty much the same thing. I'm sure somebody could probably even open this up eventually and have a tear down. But this is covered by DeWalt's limited lifetime warranty. So, you know, I'm sure if you have like a receipt of purchase and stuff like that, it'll probably, you know, warranty it, right? The other thing I wanted to point out on this, it does pivot just a hair, right, as it's bolted in down here, which is nice. But one thing I wish there was some way to do this is maybe have the ability to make this pivot or turn, right? Mainly because, as you can see here, if you're up against a baseboard right here, right, and then you wanted to lift something that was like, you know, maybe over here, right, you can't really do that because this foot sticks out this much, as you can see here, right? And yes, I agree, DeWalt probably did this on purpose, on, you know, probably their wisdom, I would have to say, mainly because physics will say if your lifting point is up here and your base is down here, you're probably going to fall over, right? I get that. Right, but sometimes, there was one time I was trying to lift something where I couldn't get it right up to the material. So it was a little bit of a challenge. What I did end up doing was just lifting it a lot more and then being able to slide this over the hump that was there, right, to be able to get this under. So that is something, maybe there's some way to engineer the tool to be able to do that. That would be nice. But that is something that did go through my mind as I did use it a lot of times, okay? So I will go ahead and say this thing is built pretty tough, as you would imagine, as you know, most DeWalt tools are. If you look at the full lever, right, it kind of looks like back here. There's some QR code you can scan. Not sure what the deal with that is, right? But it does work really well. I don't have really any complaints about that, its core functionality, besides the things that I pointed out earlier. But I do imagine, you know, this thing is about 120 bucks, okay? It'll range anywhere from maybe 100 to 120, depending on what sale you can get it for per each, right? So it's not cheap by any means, but when you do need it and you have it, it is priceless. All right, so that's a quick look at this jack, okay? And I will say, as I mentioned earlier, we did purchase both of these independently from an authorized retailer with their own money, so DeWalt did not send this to us. But I do really have to say, would I go out and buy this again? If I were going to answer that question, I would say definitely yes, okay? This is not something you use every day, right? Maybe unless you're installing things like cabinets or appliances or something like that. But for us, when you use it, you really need it and you have it, and it is priceless, like I mentioned earlier, okay? So in our case, we use it sometimes on maybe some construction material, right? But otherwise, or in some other cases, just recently we bought a new fridge, right? And just getting the foot level is huge, okay? So usually in that kind of case, you would either have to have somebody lift it or you lift it as you adjust the feet, right? But what you can really do is you can use the jack to put it exactly where you want it, then tighten the feet down so that the feet is pretty much stable exactly where you need it to go, and then lower it, okay? I could see that being huge for people who install appliances and things like that, you know, professionally, because otherwise, like I mentioned, you would have to be a two-person job, or you would have to be fighting with some leverage option that you're doing with one hand, with, you know, your other hand, you know, moving the feet, you know, in a dangerous spot, just in case you let go. Well, there goes your finger, right? So, you know, these things, I would say for that type of purpose would be super awesome if you're having that stuff, right? So, because I did use it to level my oven and fridge I would say just alone in that function was so much easier than what we've done before. And as I mentioned earlier, what you saw me do with lifting the 300-pound battery, we've done that multiple times just to get it on top of hydraulic carts, right? And also, you know, the 200-pound batteries just higher to get there where they need to be to just be able to slide those in, right? So would I go out and buy this again? 100% yes, okay? So hopefully this video helped you guys out. If any questions, let us know. Otherwise, have a great day, get back to work, and we'll see you guys next time.